Thank you for staying. Welcome on the news review belt of the show. Sweetie Abochi, kick-starting matters. And here I am with the news review. Now, before we get to our guest, before I get to my guest this morning, this segment always brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. And as always, they are offering you, if you're a man, your prostate screening for free. If you're a woman, your fertility status screening for free. Just reach out to them at any of their branches. They are here in Accra at Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi, Kronoma behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takrade and Naji State, Tema, Community 22, Techiman, Hanswa, and Esiama in Zama. Their call lines remain 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. And the start of the news review. Joining me for this morning's review, the MPP's parliamentary candidate for Ejumako Enyan Esiam, Dr. Rashid Kwesi Etuafo. He is my guest. Good mornings. Doc, you may have to unmute. Good morning. Okay, you would have to unmute, Doc. We'll try to get the connection working with Dr. Rashid Etuafo, and we'll take the conversation from there with him. But even as we proceed, I'd like to find out from you, what has been your most topical discussion through this weekend for you? What was the most topical discussion from Friday all the way to yesterday? Yesterday I was here talking about unemployment with the powers that be, and sometimes you ask yourself whether Manifest has a song, Debi Debi Ebeye, Debi Debi Ebeye, and so Debi Debi Beba Dabe, that kind of thing. And especially with young people, the stark reality of unemployment. The latest figures from the Ghana Statistical Service evince that over a certain year-long period, if you looked at, I believe it starts from one quarter, I believe first quarter in 2022 to the third quarter in 2023. And you're looking at those who moved between employment and all of that. It makes for interesting reading. Now, you look at supposedly the 1 in 5 tertiary graduates who were within that range, who had unemployment spells. But generally, when you look at it, people with tertiary degrees, whether HND, diploma, degree, masters, and all of that, who don't have anything to do. It's stark. It's startling. The nurses and the teachers are in there, and other countries are taking them. God help Ghana. But you know what they say? God helps those who help themselves. It's not necessarily in the Bible like that, no, but you read different portions where indeed you help yourself and God does the rest. He would have done his bit anyway. Yes, in your food you apano and a piano. Yes, so I am food you apano, so you're day. Anyway, let's get into the papers now. I'll get my guest in shortly. I'll start with the Daily Graphic newspaper. 2024 presidential election, who partners? Dr. Baumia, and a picture there of Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh together with Dr. Yao Osei Educhum, of course, respectively, ministers for energy and education. But honestly, when I look at the MPP now and reflect on the caliber of people and juxtapose that with the caliber of people under maybe a John Ejekum Kufuor, I see a paucity, scarcity, shortage of the kinds of elements that really, you know what I mean. I'll not continue, but I guess it is what it is. You pick out of the pool that you have. And if you have the men and the women, you can only pick out of what you do have. But the other stories in there, pull out on ICGC 40th anniversary celebration. I'll keep my promises. That's according to Mahama. Agogohene pleads for Salt FM. NTA closes 4 stations in Boku, and they were said to be fueling tension in that area. On the back page, Hearts silence RTU in Accra, and Enchi gives Oli late win against Bofuakwa. All those stories in there. Rashid, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly. I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you now. Initially, I couldn't hear you. Where do you find yourself currently? What is the state of Ejumako Enyan Esiam, the constituency you're hoping to represent come election 2024.
Okay.
So very briefly on that, so we can get into the papers.
Am I clear?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Good morning to you and good morning to you. I mean, the market is doing fine. We are still touching base with the people and making a case for the MPP and our presidential candidates, Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and then myself, and making a case strongly that the MPP is better placed to serve and rule Ghana in the next 4 years. We think that we're a better party amongst the options available. We are not promising a block of heaven, but we are assuring them that between the 2 or 3 options that are available, the MPP is the best option to transform the constituency and the country. And so yes, we are hoping and trusting that our good people will listen to us, vote massively for Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and then vote for myself as Member of Parliament. So it's not going to be fine.
All right, thank you for your brevity there. Let me quickly get into the stories. And 2024 presidential election. Who partners Dr. Bawumia? Now, when the time comes for the vice president and flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, to announce his running mate for this year's elections, he is likely to settle on one from a narrow pool of members of parliament and government appointees. The Daily Graphic has gathered from inside sources. Now, the MP for Menchia South and Minister of Energy, Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, and the MP for Bosomtwe and Minister of Education, Dr. Yawase Educhum, are the front runners for the slot, even though names are receiving the backing of specific blocks within the party. Now, a female running mate, the Chief of Staff, Akosua Fremao Opari, to bring gender balance to the ticket, and the former Majority Leader in Parliament, Osechi Mensah-Bonsu, have also been touted as the desired candidates to fill the position. The pool of possible candidates also includes the Chief Executive of SDC, Nana Komia, and the Minister of Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs, Stephen Asamoah Boateng. Now, the major decision to be made by the Vice President and the party's flag bearer for the 2024 general election, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, in consultation with the National Executive Committee of the party, is expected in May this year. So some pundits will say it's the Education Minister. Some will say he's not cut out of that cloth. Others will say it's the Energy Minister. Some will say he simply lacks what it takes to be on that level. But what will the party decide? We've heard from some stalwarts. I remember, I think, a women's organizer saying that the person will be a member of parliament from the Ashanti region and all of that. So all those dynamics are in there. What can we do? We can only wish the MPP the very best as they embark on that exercise. Let me add these stories and then get your quick reactions to them. I want us to make the most of time as quickly as possible. So, Agogohene pleads for Salt FM. NCA closes 4 stations in Boku. Now, the Agogo Traditional Council has appealed to the Minister of Communications and Digitalization, Ursula Osuekofo, to intervene in the reopening of Salt FM, a private radio station that serves the communities in that traditional area. Now, a petition signed by the Omanhene of Agogo, Nana Ekwoko Sapong, and addressed to the minister said the station had over the years been the primary source of information for the residents of the over 65 towns and villages in the traditional area. Quoting him, he therefore says, "I therefore humbly request that you intervene and direct the National Communications Authority to reopen Salt FM and allow it the opportunity to rectify every paperwork for ratification." But then, in another incident in Boku, 4 stations closed down. The NCA has shut down 4 radio stations in Boku, in the Boku municipality in the Upper East region. They are Boku FM, Source FM, Zara FM, and Guma FM. The Daily Graphic gathered that the exercise was carried out last Saturday amid heavy military protection following a recommendation by the Upper East Regional Security Council. That's the RegSec. And like I mentioned earlier, on the back of claims that they were spewing things, programs, information that was inhibiting the peace in Boku. And then I'll wrap with these stories. So too in politics, Dr. Okoboy donates ambulance to Teshi Community Polyclinic. He was the Member of Parliament for Lejikuku from 2017 to 2020, and he said the Friends wanted to present him with a gift worth $40,000 but he pleaded with them to use the money to buy an ambulance that would help save the lives of the people. So instead of getting that personal gift, he wanted to give back to his community via this ambulance. Then, so that's on the end of the MPP. On the end of the NDC, I'll keep my promises, Mahama says so. So former President John Dramani Mahama has assured the public of his commitment to keep all the promises he has made to Ghanaians on the campaign trail when given the mandate to be president in the 2024 general election. Mr. Mahama, who is the flag bearer of the NDC for the 2024 polls, mentioned some of the promises as the reduction in the size of government, the abolishment of ex gratia, and the scrapping of the e-levy. And he says he means business on those promises. I've thrown quite a number of stories at you, so just to rehash, Rashid. Who partners Baumia? Then I also brought you the Agogohene on Salt FM. Reopen it because it serves 65 communities in there. And of course, there's a Boku angle, 4 stations shut down. And then I brought you Dr. Okoboy using $40,000 that could have got into his pocket for community service, getting an ambulance, and Mahama saying he will keep his promises. Quick thoughts?
Quick one. I would start with who partners our presidential candidates.
Right.
I think that is the prerogative of the presidential candidates. Largely in consultation with National Council and National Executive Committee. However, looking at where we are as a party and my personal take,
right,
I think that there is none who is in a better position than the energy minister. My reason is largely to the point that at the point when we took power in 2017, that's in January, I think in April or May, the president had announced that he is going to start free SHS in September, which was a major campaign promise. Dr. Matthew Poku, as then education minister, saw us through the storm. I mean, it was tough. We just didn't get it right from the beginning. But within that 4 years where he was at the education ministry, you could see stability. You could see gradual progress towards the point where we were going to correct the ills and mistakes of the free SHS. And such an achiever, hardworking, loved by the people of Ashanti region, because this election is not going to come easily. We need the people of Ashanti to know that one of their own is leading the party.
Must it always be ethnic? Must we always flash the ethnic card in the faces of Ghanaians? That's one of the things that people have said is the most dangerous, inflammatory thing that could be brought up. Why do we always have to play the ethnic card?
It is not ethnic.
It isn't?
I mean, we can have a conversation about any country in the world. Every political party across the world would always want to first and foremost appease its core base. I mean, you can go to the Republicans, we can have a conversation on that.
Yeah, the conversation shifts when you bring in ethnicity. It's in other jurisdictions. No. You are mentioning the US. In other jurisdictions, it's about who can give us the numbers, who can argue, debate the issues.
So I am not saying largely the people, the Ashantis. I said Ashanti region. Ashanti region is not we have a lot of ethnic groupings in Ashanti region.
On ethnicity, right. Even if it's broad, you've singled out a region. It means there's a certain group of ethnic groups that we're looking at.
No. Okay, now take your time and listen. All I'm saying is that politically, across the world, every political party would want to appease its core base. That we understand. Whether your core base is coming from a state, whether it's coming from a region, whether it's coming from a sector of your country, your core base would have to be appeased. Because that is where you get your votes from. And in appeasing them, you get them as either the front line or a supporting staff, or one or two of the most important roles are played by your core base. Now, the MPP has the Ashanti region as its core base. And so, ordinarily, we will not sit and say that because of someone claiming that is ethnic. As though in Ashanti region, we don't have guns there, we don't have Fantas there, we don't have airways there, we have all, it's a cosmopolitan. So obviously, you have other ethnic groupings in Ashanti region. However, it happens to be the most largest region that supports the MPP. So that must be made clear. And among the front runners, if there's anybody that I think that is loved by the people of the region, then I'll look no further other than the energy minister. Not just that.
So Dr.
Dr.
Educhum is hated by those people. You say if you look at someone who is loved.
That.
No, I'm saying you say if you look at someone who is loved, so he's hated, eh?
It is not white or black, my brother. There could be a shade of grey.
Shade of grey, eh?
There could be a shade of grey. Please don't bring me trouble. but Ola, beyond that, you would agree that the energy minister has been an achiever, and we need people who are achievers to man this country.
Right.
And so for me, I think so. But the ultimate responsibility lies on the vice president and our presidential candidate.
Right.
You would have to decide. So we are still hoping and praying that he makes the best choice for the party, as he has always done. Now, did I hear the NDC presidential candidate say that he would keep his promise?
Yes, you did.
We have heard this over and over again. I could give a litany of promises that he never kept. I could give statements he's made in the past that he himself knows that he cannot achieve those things. I'm not going to discuss him, but Ghanaians will decide between him and then the presidential candidate of the MPP. Ghanaians will take a decision, and I have no doubt in my mind that the voters is going to vote for Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Because indeed, we have President John Mahama as president of this country for almost 7 years.
Right. And
we saw how he governed this country, and we saw the promises, the litany of promises he made that he could not keep. So what has changed? I am not going to go.
Let me throw that same question back to you in terms of your flag bearer. I could sit here right now without even thinking and name so many things he has had, especially about the economy, that have turned on their heads, and so many things he's saying now that, practically speaking, I don't want to go there. So what exactly are you saying?
And when you say practically speaking,
if you want us to do this, I could have you come up with a list and give me the inferences or references, and I will do same for you on the other side. We can do that right now.
You and I have had a conversation on this before.
Yes, and we can go there again.
I've shown you why I think the MPP is a better option. We will not travel this line. If you want to travel this line, trust me, the NDC will not beat the MPP in any sector of the economy.
Do you know what's interesting? We don't even need to banter about this, but do you know the interesting part? Like you rightly said, at the end of the day, it is the good people of Ghana, including both of us, who will vote in the end. And where the masses go is where we'll head. There's no need splitting hairs over who is the better, or who has lied more, or who has lied less, or who has done more, or who has done less. In the end, the people will vote, and will not even need to have this discussion. But let's move on to the other issues because of time.
Convicted and convinced that the NDC is a better option than the MPP. I doubt you are. The MPP, I know you know that the MPP is always a better option than the NDC. And so yes. To the ambulance donated by my brother, my senior from Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. He was my vice president when I was in tech. Fantastic leader. We all have seen Okoboy and the numerous things he's done for his constituents. Quite unfortunate that he lost the 2020 elections. He's coming back stronger. And even after losing, we had seen the things he led from the front even after he lost. That shows progress. That shows that he is a leader, and donating an ambulance to his people makes that statement that even when he is not a member of parliament who enjoys common fund and enjoys all the largesse of the office, he is still committed to serving his people. And that is progress. And I have no doubt in my mind that he would go back to Parliament as Member of Parliament.
Right.
And he's going to serve the country as Minister of Health. Now to the Salt FM, Boko.
Well, let me just sneak in this bit, and that is another aspect that I find a little worrying. It is not to say that the NDC lacks when it comes to health, people in the health sector. You remember Alex Segbefia, among others. But I'm saying too that sometimes, for example, with the Ghana Statistical Service boss currently, Professor Samuel Kobina Enim, he's a fantastic gentleman. And me, I say that whether the MPP is retained in power or some other administration comes, someone like him should be retained because of what I see him doing. Within this period, you've never seen a government statistician who has done some of the things he's done, who has come out with some of the reports he's taken seriously, and who is so willing to interact with the media. I could say same for someone like Daniel Yao Domelevo, who was hounded out. People like that, if you truly mean well for the country, if you truly mean well, it doesn't matter what your political tincture or coloration is. You should be able to allow them to do their work. And I use that as a premise because I feel same about Dr. Okuboy. I feel he's very passionate about health, and I feel some such people, it should be possible, even in an administration that is not theirs, for people to say, okay, I want you to assist. I want you to be a deputy minister, or I want you to be a minister. That is my thinking. I don't see too much of that. And I feel that is why our politics is too partisan. But you go ahead. I mean, that thought just came to mind.
Oh, I mean, largely so I agree. I think that there are some people who, when are given opportunities to serve their country, prove beyond every reasonable doubt that they serve their country wholly. And so, yes, like I've said, my senior colleague, Dr. Okuboy, has proven beyond every reasonable doubt that he's a fine gentleman and he needs to come back to Parliament. And I am convicted and convinced that he's going to serve Ghanaians at the Ministry of Health to his utmost. Maybe yes. But you see, there's a little challenge. But I'll go back to the NCA and its suspension.
So we've still not gone past the daily graphical. It's
like I said, I mean, with the situation, anything that would bring peace, so far as is within the remit of the law, I shall endorse. Because it's become one too many times where you would hear these things happening, and it's scary. I have done some works in Mongnori before, and I know the people of Boko are largely peaceful. So whenever I hear these things happening, I get worried. So if that is what will bring peace, then I support the National Security and the National Communication Authority to do so. For the Salt FM, I would appeal that if it's compliance issue and it's license payment issues, I would beg that the Ministry of Communication will listen to the Chief Wagogo and get the Salt FM crew to do the needful.
So you're getting you're adding your voice to that plea, if you like, right?
I mean, yes, largely so. If it's compliance and license issues,
right?
And when people are deprived of relevant information, they revolt. And so, if Salt FM is one of the, if not the only, but one of the only means of getting information to the people of Agogo, then why not? We should get National Communication Authority to get Salt FM to settle its licensing fees and compliance issues and then get them to come back so that they will not be deprived of relevant information.
Right. Let's quickly get into other stories. I'll also look at some of those from other newspapers and what exactly they have to tell us this morning. But let me do the international front of the paper. ECOWAS lifts school sanctions on Niger. And West Africa's regional bloc ECOWAS has lifted travel, commercial, and economic sanctions imposed on Niger that were aimed at reversing the coup staged in the country last year. A senior official announced Saturday the sanctions will be lifted with immediate effect, the president of the ECOWAS Commission, Omar Aliou Touré, said after the bloc's meeting in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, that aimed at addressing existential threats facing the region, as well as imploring three junta-led nations that had quit the bloc to rescind their decisions. Now, the ANC has launched its manifesto ahead of the May election, and the US targets Russia with more than 500 new sanctions. But of course, a lot of these actually, it's not like 500 new sanctions, technically. These are sanctions that are already in place but being implemented in different ways. Now, the Ghanaian Times newspaper, partner state to tackle socio-economic problems. President tasks Christian community. President delivers SONA tomorrow. For those of you watching, and you can share your thoughts with me. I don't know what your expectations are of the State of the Nation address. And oftentimes, I believe those who present the State of the Nation address, since Kufuor through to all the presidents, I think they don different glasses. I saw this skit last week where someone said that it appears there's a spiritual Ghana and a physical Ghana, because sometimes the Ghana that our leaders talk about and tout outside, you begin to wonder, is that the same Ghana we are in? Ghana, no, Ghana A and Ghana B, Team A and Team B, and as Ghana B will be a in him. Anyway, NDC to establish $50 million fintech growth fund to support digital economy. Ex-President Mahama says so. Alan takes campaign to markets as he sells GTP to traders in Accra. This is a good one, but he's not selling the cloth. It's about his plan for Ghana. Nana Kwaku Sapong appeals to Communications Minister NCA to reopen Salt FM. We've looked at that story. So let me quickly do the one on page 8, page 4, and then Alan Chemating as well. So starting with page 4. President Akufo-Addo will tomorrow, February 27, present a message on the state of the nation to Parliament in Accra. And his address to the nation via Parliament will be the last but one before his tenure expires on January 6, 2025. This term, last but one, why don't we just use, it's a Ghanaianism. Why don't we just use what is right, penultimate, or the one before the last, but last but one, yeah. You know, there are some things you only hear in Ghana. Anyway, another story there, page 8. NDC to establish $50 million fintech. So the next National Democratic Congress administration will establish a fintech growth fund with an initial seed capital of $50 million to support indigenous companies in fostering the growth of the digital economy, former President John Dramani Mahama has announced. I'm reading this story because, especially for both the NDC and the MPP and other candidates, presidential candidates, I want us to scrutinize the things they say and the sums of money they keep attaching to these projects and programs, especially tied to an IMF program. I need think tanks like Imani Africa, groups like ours in the media to look at them because, like we keep saying, we foreshine our eyes. And this year, electorally speaking, we no go grieve for anybody. You try, do we, why you, it's going to be. And I'm not just really saying tied to the former president, but lots of things I've heard from both him and Dr. Baumia. We could debate those throughout the night. The president has also called on the African Christian community or movement not to only focus on the spiritual growth of the people, but also their socio-economic development. He said there was the need for the Christian community to work closely together with the state in tackling the problems that confronted the citizenry. But I might also throw it back to Mr. President. How well have you developed the socio-economic lives of Ghanaians? So let me look at Alan, and then I can come to you, Alan Chemating. So, leader and founder of the Movement for Change, Alan John Kwejo Chemating, on Friday took his campaign to some major markets in Accra to propagate his message of the Great Transformational Plan. The markets the former Trade and Industry Minister visited included Okanshi, Makola, Tudu, Kwasia Jaso, or is it Kwasia Jaso? Aboso Okai, Kaneshi, and Kokompe. I'm not too familiar with that one, so if I murdered it, please pardon me. Momentarily, business activities came to a halt as the traders left their wares to catch a glimpse of the man who had been in charge of their industry for the past 7 years. And the crowd was thick. He moved at snail pace as a result of the swelling crowd. And he said his team moved to Tudu and TS, where he met with the president and executives of the Greater Accra Market Women Association. And that's it for the political front. Any quick reactions as we move to the next one?
Yes, obviously. I am sure that the president's State of the Nation address would bring a lot of hope. It's going to give where we have come from the past month to a year, and then it would dovetail into where we are going. I'm sure that that will bring some clarity, that will bring some direction, that will bring some ignite some hope in us once more. We know that the president, when he speaks, brings a lot of hope to people, and that's exactly what's going to happen. We're not just going to be talk. He's not going to give the rhetoric. He's going to give fact, figures, let us know exactly what it is that he's done and what he's going to do into the election year. And so I am sure that that is what is going to happen. Now with ECOWAS and lifting of sanctions, for me, like I said earlier, it is what will bring peace, what will bring stability, what will bring improvement in the lives of people within this ECOWAS region. So for those in the helm of affairs, if to them and to their mind, the best form now is for them to lift sanctions that would bring some level of peace, stability, progress to the people of the region, then why not? And so for our former trade and industry minister who has left us to join Alpha Franco movement, I would not discuss it because I think that largely he should come back home. But I support the sanctions that has been lifted. At least it would allow for engagement. I believe that the president's State of the Nation address would bring a lot of hope. The message of hope, which is necessary, and he was also going to direct the country to direct us as to the vision he has going into his last term in office as president. And so yes, we look forward to it.
I always find it interesting. I say when I listen to politicians, you sound so whether it's the NDC or the MPP. You sound so confident. It smacks sometimes as though you knew something that the rest of the people didn't, and as though you lived in a different bubble. Sometimes that's the impression I get when I speak to members of the NDC and the MPP, because some of your optimism and some of how you are, and the president gives hope and all of that. I'm sure people are watching you, some of them, and wondering, okay, but that. You're entitled to your opinion, and everyone else out there is entitled to their opinion. I can't wait for election 2024 because I want to see how Ghanaians think and what the outcome is going to be. I don't see. In this Fourth Republic, I look at so many things and I get so worried. One of them, unemployment, which I was talking about just yesterday on the probe. But since we're done with this, done and dusted, let's wrap with other papers very quickly and get out of here. The Daily Guide, Oforiatta appointed senior presidential advisor. Nanebo, Nanaba. People said it was said that, oh no, and this and that. Well, that's it. Samia Uku declares war on illegal lotto. Akufo-Addo names caretaker ministers, suspend sanctions against Guinea, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso. That's according to Tinubu. And 24-hour economy remains best strategy. That's according to former President Mahama. On the back page, GFA committed to Colts football development. That's according to Kurt Okraku. As for Colts football, I don't even want to go there. And as for football itself in Ghana right now, before my energies burst out on air. So on page 3. In a significant move following a major reshuffle on February 14, President Akufo-Addo has assigned additional responsibilities to some ministers to fill vacancies in various ministries, while the substantive ministers await their vetting and approval by Parliament. The latest changes include the assignment of the Railway Minister John Peter Amewu to oversee the Sanitation and Water Resources Ministry until Lydia Sairam Al-Hassan is confirmed after the vetting process. Interior Minister Henry Kwate will oversee the Greater Accra region until Ni Kwate Titus Glover is sworn in as the Greater Accra Regional Minister. So there are others as well. But President Akufo-Addo has appointed former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta as Senior Presidential Advisor and Special Envoy for International Finance and Private Sector Investment. Chief of Staff Akosua Fremosei-Opare, in a letter dated February 15, 2024, asked Mr. Ofori-Atta to accept the President's best wishes. Soja go, Soja come. Your quick reflections.
But how is that Soja go, Soja come?
Those who understand will understand, and if you don't understand, I'll leave it to you.
If you know, you know. That's what you are saying. But
yeah,
like on a more serious note, I think that being a presidential advisor remains so. The president is at liberty to. You are not a policy initiator. You don't implement policies. You don't. you are largely going to advise the president if you are invited to do so. If the
Right.
president needs your advice on investments, international transactions, and all that, as his portfolio has been so ascribed. So it's not as though he's still coming to run the Ministry of Finance as people purport. Clearly,
I don't think anyone
we have
has
advised-
purported. I don't think anyone has purported that. But if you
No,
understand
I've
the
seen-
consequence of
that-
his
I've
role
seen that on Twitter.
and what
In fact,
people feel
I've
will be
seen-
his influence, I think that's what people have spoken of in terms
No,
of
I've seen
even
people-
whatever
I've-
contractual agreements will engage with in terms of debts, loans, and all of that. I've not seen anyone say that.
I've seen
going
members
to.
of parliament. I could mention names. I've seen members of
Okay.
parliament tweet at it. I've seen some Okujetu Aplako. I've seen Sam George. They've mentioned it on Twitter. So when I say this, I say this with. But all I'm saying is that it is when you are invited to come and share an opinion. That's why you share an opinion as an advisor. We've
Right.
had advisors in this country who have not been allowed to give one single advice in this country, or whose advice have not been taken, and who have come out to lament. I don't want to go back.
Right.
And so it's not as though when you are appointed an advisor, every single thing you'd say, you would do, you would ask to be done, will be done. It is largely the president's prerogative and the ministry to which you think some things must or should not be done that would have to implement or otherwise. And so, yes, he's been given that role as an advisor based on his experience, his exposure. You cannot, like you stated, there are people in this country that once they leave office, it is best or better that their experience and exposure, the lessons they learned whilst in office, will still be
Right.
tapped into. And so it is not far-fetched that based on his level of experience, his exposure, he led the IMF transactions and engagements. And so largely so, you'd want him to be around to advise and guide. But as to implementing government policies, initiating policies and seeing it through the course, in terms of monetary policy and otherwise, it's purely going to be the Ministry of Finance and its deputies. And so I do not see where the problem is. Is the problem just the appointment, or what actually is the problem? Is it because he's been given the advisory role? Is it because he left the finance ministry to be given an advisory role? What is the problem? So for me, it is a matter of somebody who has an enormous experience, enormous exposure in investments and all that we cannot discount, who has been relieved of his position as a Ministry of Finance.
Right.
And the things
and just because of time, we have to move on to the other issues as well, if you may. But I'm sure, I mean, like I said, opinions are like noses, and I'm sure your constituents are also watching. And if they agree with you, come that time of the year, they'll vote for you. And if they don't, maybe they might not. But I will not sit here and look into any crystal ball and forecast. So let's take it that way. Is there anything else you'd like to react to on that before I move quickly?
No. The court football, like you said earlier, it's an important part. It's an important part of our football, and I think it's the basis to which our Black Stars are not doing well.
Right.
I mean, growing up, I used to follow a lot of coast football. I grew up in Nansoman. I used to follow a lot of coast football. I would come to Indafa Park at Hollywood, come and watch coast football. In secondary school, where I schooled, in Namibia Secondary School, Amas, the Milo competition was great. It was something that you could see a lot of talent, and he brewed a lot of talent, Dominic Adias and all that.
Right.
So I think that with the drop in coast football, it would naturally reflect in our Black Stars and our senior national team. So I think that if the GF president has seen it, then he should invest in it and get it right.
All right. Final story, the Daily Searchlight. Please, no more than 20 seconds on this. We have to go. Ghana, African country with highest debt to IMF. That's a question. So Ghana has maintained its spot as Africa's most indebted country to the IMF. Ghana's debt to the IMF increased by 35.55% over the time period under consideration, per data from the IMF's quarterly finances for July ending 2023. This accounts for 9.55% of the 17.68 billion special drawing rights in total loans still owed by the fund to African countries, according to www.africannews.com. You can check out details from there moving forward. 10 seconds, I'll cut it down. 10 seconds. Any final words? Let's go. We have to go.
I just did a normal Google search and I looked at the IMF data. And what I've seen Egypt, I've seen Angola, I've seen South Africa, I've seen Cote d'Ivoire, Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana. So I have go onto the IMF website yourself and look it up. You would see countries who are ahead of. That's not to justify what our engagement with IMF is. But to spew an untruth is quite worrying. When you go onto the internet, now information and data is available to all. Ghana is nowhere on top, unless Egypt, Angola, South Africa, Cote d'Ivoire are not African countries. And so I do not know where the researcher got this information from, but I would entreat that you go onto the IMF website and you see about 6 or 7 countries sitting on top of Ghana. And so, yes, that's not true. And so we should not accept such data and make Ghana look as though it's the worst country in Africa. It is not.
I think this issue can be discussed further moving forward, because there's something I'm looking at, but I don't think we have the time. So we can do that maybe off air. But thank you very much. The MPP's parliamentary candidate for Ejumako Enyanesiam, Dr. Rashid Kwesi Etuafo, has been my guest. I wish you the very best of the day. Before we go, if you're celebrating your birthday today, we celebrate you as well. And Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic has helped us to bring you this segment one more time. They're offering you prostate screening for free if you're a man, and fertility screening for free if you're a woman. Just reach out to them at any of their branches. Accra, Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi, Kronumabwehan, behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takrady Anaji State, Tamakumiti 22, Techiman Hanswa, and Esiaman Zema. Call them on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. There's been a lot happening over the weekend. Chelsea, Liverpool, the Wolves, among other teams, and Messi's own Inter Miami as well. We don't get to hear too much about them, do we? Anyway, sports coming up next.